Just stop your crying, it's the sign of the times. It's looking for... Oh, hey, welcome to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about Project Hail Mary and how to achieve one of the looks that it does so well. Now this is not a movie review channel, but if you haven't seen Project Hail Mary yet, I highly recommend it. It is like why we make movies. It's such a great film and it follows a really cool trajectory of innovative cinematography in science fiction films. Now for those of you that don't know me too well, which is probably most of you, I am a huge space nerd. Actually, when I was applying to colleges 3 or 4 centuries ago, they always asked you to pick 2 majors or areas of interest. Mine was always film first, and second was astrophysics. Oddly, I ended up double majoring in film theory and African American studies, but that's a different story. But point being, I am a seeker of knowledge, truth, and experimentation. And cinematography has a really cool track record of seeking knowledge, truth, and experimentation in films. Interstellar is a great example. With the astrophysicist Kip Thorne working on that film with them, they actually kind of discovered what a black hole visually might look like. And that was through the work on that film. And that's kind of how we perceive a black hole might visually look like to our eyes today. They also mounted the camera in various cool ways on that film that a lot of sci-fi movies still use today. Sort of that bird's eye view on the side of a spaceship. The film Ad Astra is another wonderful example. The DP Hoyte van Hoytema, who is actually the same DP on Interstellar, innovated some really cool new technology with IR filtration to get that moonscape look. If I'm not mistaken, they actually shot that in the desert, and he used one camera removing the IR filter and another regular camera and sort of combined the two to darken the skies and get that gray look that the moon has. And that brings us to Project Hail Mary, where they also use some IR filtration techniques. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about the different ways you can use your anamorphic lenses to achieve various looks. Now this is a no spoiler review. I'm not going to talk about any plot details of Project Hail Mary, but we will talk about the cinematography. And something that stood out to me, which was a dead giveaway right when I saw it, was it had vertical anamorphic lens flaring. So immediately in my head I thought they flipped the camera on its side, or they flipped the lens on its side, or they did something creative there. And I thought I'd make a video on it because if you have a PL mount lens, especially an anamorphic lens, there are different ways you can use anamorphic glass other than the traditional way. I won't get too granular into what anamorphic lenses actually do. I have another video on that, and there's plenty of videos on YouTube that explain that. But essentially they squeeze your image and then you de-squeeze it in post. So that's what we're doing right now. We're shooting on my Blazar Mantis 50mm, just in a traditional anamorphic format. So it's taking my 16:9 sensor and it's de-squeezing it out. This lens is marketed as a 1.33 squeeze ratio, although I find it's more accurate at somewhere around a 1.39 or a 1.4 ratio. And the outcome is this final look, which is closer to a 2:4:1 CinemaScope look. But there are other ways that you can use anamorphic lenses. So we're going to be talking about vertiscope. Now I've heard vertiscope described in 2 different ways. One is rotating your actual lens, and the other is rotating your camera. I don't know if the term vertiscope is applicable to both of those scenarios, but for now we'll just pretend that it is. Now before I go on, if you really want an in-depth video on vertiscope, check out my homie Brandon and his YouTube channel. He has a great detailed video on vertiscope, how to achieve it, and all the different benefits that it might give you. If you haven't checked out his channel, please do so. Subscribe, he has some awesome content. Today for my video, we're gonna keep it pretty basic and just show you the 2 different ways you can use your anamorphic glass to achieve a certain type of look for narrative filmmaking. So right now we're gonna go with the first way, which is actually rotating your entire camera 90 degrees, but keeping the lens the same. The benefit of a PL mount is you can actually rotate your lens and still get a positive lock on it and have it be safe and secure. So right now we're going to rotate my camera 90 degrees to its vertical orientation, but we're going to keep the lens at its horizontal normal orientation. All right, here we go. This is with the camera turned 90 degrees, so it's vertical orientation, but the lens is still at its normal horizontal orientation. So basically what this is doing is now taking the vertical area of the sensor and stretching it out this way. So it's de-squeezing it the same way it normally would, but it's de-squeezing a taller image. What that's doing is actually giving us more room on the top and bottom, but less room on the sides. And then you end up with the final product of something that's a boxier image. Now, I'm not going to go into the math of that because it depends if you're shooting a 16:9 sensor, 17:9, 3.2 open gate, and it also depends on the anamorphic lens you're using and its squeeze factor. 1.33, 1.5, 1.8, 2.0, etc. So there's a lot of different combinations. To my eye, when I'm looking at my monitor below here, this looks like something similar to a 4:5 image. But regardless of what you use, it's going to result in a boxier image in general. So it'll be closer to something like a 4:3 image or a 1:1 image. But doing it this way maintains the same attributes of an anamorphic lens. The bokeh is going to look the same and be that nice kind of oval bokeh. And the lens flares are going to look the same and go across the screen this way. I'll demonstrate that real quick with a flashlight. So just so you can see it better, I'm going to turn my key light off here, and we're just going to ping the lens. You can see it has that same horizontal anamorphic lens flare. But that's not what they did in Project Hail Mary, because in Project Hail Mary, they actually had a vertical lens flare. For Project Hail Mary, they actually kept the camera in its same orientation, but they rotated the lens 90 degrees. So let's see what that looks like right now. There we have it. Now with this orientation, you get a really cool, unique look. It's a very boxy image, but you still maintain a good amount of width and more top and bottom. So it really kind of expands the scope of your image, which is why Project Hail Mary used it to achieve a 1:3:1 IMAX look. They used an Alexa 65, which is essentially 3 Alexa sensors stitched together. So it's a very long cinematic 65mm format. But by tilting the lens 90 degrees, they were actually de-squeezing it from top to bottom. So they essentially stretched the image out for a boxier look and achieved the 1:3:1 IMAX ratio. But with that came some unique anamorphic characteristics, like the background having a more horizontal oval bokeh, and then of course vertical anamorphic lens flares, which we'll demonstrate right now. Now you can see the lens flares are actually going up and down, top to bottom of the frame. It's a very fascinating and cool look. So if you have PL anamorphic glass and pretty much any camera with a PL mount adapter, you can achieve this look on a budget. To truly get that Project Hail Mary look, the only other thing you need is an Alexa 65 and $250 million. Easy. But if you don't have that, there are other ways to get creative, and that's something else we're going to do in this video. I always get inspired by films that do things as practically as they can, and Greg Fraser is definitely one of those DPs. There's very little green screen, if any, in Project Hail Mary. Greg Fraser is definitely known for using things like the volume LED walls and practical lighting to really put the characters in the environment that they can interact with. Now, I don't have $250 million, but I do have a Staples next door to me, and I do have a projector. So I thought, let's mess around and try and create a Project Hail Mary scene in my very own apartment. So here you can see the lighting setup I did. I just went to Staples and bought 2 poster boards. I taped them together and cut out a bit of a window in the middle. Then taking an old poster frame I had, I used the kind of plastic covering to act as a window and taped it behind the poster board. So there we had our spaceship. Then for lighting it, I used 2 of my little budget-friendly 8-inch LED panels. I turned one to cyan just to be kind of an ambient space color, and I just love the way cyan looks on skin. And I blasted that through the window. Then I put another 8-inch panel below me set to tungsten, and I taped actually just some paper towel to the poster board just so there was something white there. And I bounced that light into the paper towel to give me a little bit of a soft glow inside of the spaceship. I shot on the Nikon ZR in the Red Raw codec, and I set the camera to 4000 ISO from its second native base of 6400, just to have a little more shadow detail and boost the level of the overall image. Lastly, I created a space scene in After Effects, and I projected it using my 4K projector. That acted as the backdrop outside of the window. I created the space scene using the Triune Universe pack. For those of you that don't know Triune, they are the Film Riot guys. They actually make awesome assets that are really budget friendly. Their Universe pack has star systems, nebulas, planets, suns, asteroids, all kinds of stuff. So I stitched together some images and then put them in 3D in After Effects and created a camera movement kind of zooming by them. The cool thing is that I got to add one of my own images within theirs. That's an image I took of the Andromeda Galaxy, which is 2 million light years away. A few months ago, I went up to the mountains of Los Angeles, which still has a decent amount of light pollution, and using my star tracker and a series of long exposures, I actually got the Andromeda Galaxy. And this was just on an 85mm lens. I highly recommend astrophotography, at least as a hobby. It's super fun. And it's very humbling to sit out there in the dark and keep taking long exposures, and then as you process them, you reveal something like a galaxy that's 2 million light years away. The other thing Project Hail Mary did is, although they shot digitally, they put it through a film print process after the fact. That gave it the warmth and the grain that only film can do. The closest I could get to that is using the plugin Dehancer to give my final look of film emulation. So here's how it looks all put together. So there it is. It was pretty fun to do. It didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to, but I was working in pretty confined space with a lot of limitations. Obviously, it would be better to go to a studio all blacked out and really have a lot of control over the light. But I love being creative, and I love showing you guys what you can do in your own home just for fun. Then you can take all these same concepts and kind of upscale them when you have bigger budgets. That's it for today. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. My channel is actually growing, to my surprise, which is really cool. So thank you guys so much for being a part of it. And because of its growth, I have new opportunities coming up, collaborating with different brands and hopefully different YouTubers in the near future. My next video is actually going to be a really deep dive into how to make a Hollywood movie with the Nikon ZR. There's going to be a lot of cool information in that one, and I'm really excited to put it together, but it's going to take a little longer. So please subscribe so you're up to date, and make sure you tune in for the next video. Thanks, guys.